Mike. Mike. Hey, Mike. Where's my freaking book, Mike? Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Comic Book Bob. And right off the bat, I wanted to make something clear. I'm a very harsh critic. Okay, I have a tendency to set the standard high, and I like to really get into the details of my comics and my movies and etc. So in the course of my review, it may seem like I'm being overly harsh in that I don't like a particular book or project or what have you. But that's not necessarily the case. Nothing has ever really gotten a perfect rating from me, not even the best comics and movies that have ever been made. So bear that in mind when I'm talking about these projects. If I say that there's something I don't like or that I think can be improved on, it doesn't mean I'm saying that it sucks or that I didn't enjoy it. Actually, very much to the contrary. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this review. Okay, so today's review is Graveyard Shift. We've been waiting for these books for a while now. And this is written by Mark Poulton with a story by Mark Poulton and Jon Malins and art by Jon Malins, colors by Anthony George, and letters by Eric Weathers. So when I do these kind of reviews, I usually break them down into four categories. I break them down into art, the line art, the colors and how they come together, the writing, the story, the plot development, things like that, dialogue, obviously that speaks for itself, and then the presentation of the book, the way the book's put together, how it looks, and how it feels. And then lastly, I like to add something that I call the fun factor, whether or not I enjoyed the book, whether I thought it was fun. So right off the bat, let's go ahead and get started, and let's get into the art. So the line art is Jon Malins' usual style, which is very distinctly digital and what we've come to kind of expect from him. And that usually means figures with a lot of sharp, distinct lines and backgrounds that are usually pretty basic in comparison. It's a style somewhat indicative of artists like Travis Karras or Mike Mignola, where if there's a figure in the panel, the backgrounds are usually pretty sparse or even non-existent at times to allow the figure to stand out. That's where they want your eye to be. And speaking of the figures, as far as the character designs in this book are concerned, with the exception of Mick the monster, who's basically the Frankenstein's monster, character designs are pretty basic. All the characters are easily defined from one another, but none of them have any real complicated design features. Again, with the exception of Mick, who, I'm going to be flat out honest, is my favorite character out of the whole book. That's not to say that the character designs are bad. They're just, there's nothing that's, you haven't seen before, or that you're like, holy crap, that's really unique. So on that standpoint, it's pretty art. It's good. As far as the colors go, they're pretty good too, though there are some backgrounds where I think different color choices would have helped make them pop out more. There are some where the figures are, the background is the same color as the figures, so they kind of bleed together a little bit. And if they had chosen a different color, I think it would have helped it pop more and created a better separation from the foreground characters or the foreground elements. But with that being said, this is good art, and I give this art a solid 7 out of 10. Okay, so let's move on to the writing. The story's pretty straightforward and does a decent job of setting up the events that lead to the Graveyard Shift, though it does tend to jump around a bit too much for my liking, and they do a lot of this, going back and forth through time. And I feel like it gets a little complicated. In addition, the story feels like it's a little compacted. To be honest, the story is probably the weakest element of the book. Not that it's bad, but it really feels like it needed to be fleshed out more. I think if this book had been, like a regular miniseries size, like say 5 or 6 issues, it probably would have come together a little bit better and had a much nicer flow. But as it is, it's all a little too compressed into what basically amounts to 2 issues. I think it's 46 pages total, so it's like 2 regular comic book size issues. But for what it does the job of giving us the story. But a larger page count would probably have allowed for a much richer and better paced story. Another thing that bothered me was, of the 3 main characters, we only get internal monologues from 2 of them. And even then, most of it comes from one character, and that comes from Vlad, aka Professor Blood, getting the lion's share of the narration. We get a little bit of time with Mick the Monster, but we get nothing with Lilith. And considering that she's the book's female lead, this does make her seem to be if I were so inclined to think that way, it would make it seem like she was a little more than a plot device, as to be the linchpin for a love triangle that exists in the book. Spoiler alert. In future issues, hopefully we'll see her become more of a character, as I think she really could be cool, I think. And these elements, basically, that I feel that puts the writing for Graveyard Shift kind of right in the middle. So I give this a 5.5 out of 10. Okay, moving on to the dialogue. What we're given is pretty decent, with nothing seemingly out of place, though there are puns, and, they're puns, all right? If you're like me, puns are pretty much cringe fuel, and thankfully we don't get a lot of them. But what we did get kind of gave me flashbacks to early Image. Don't get me wrong. I loved early Image, all of it. But man, there was some bad dialogue in early Image comics. Man, there were some bad one-liners, bad puns, bad catchphrases, and thankfully, the ones that were there were a little like, okay, but they weren't too terrible. As far as the different dialogue of the characters being distinct, it does a pretty good job of, making sure that you know which character is talking. It also helps that all the characters have unique word balloons. So Vlad has this red word balloon. Mick has basically like a telepathic word balloon, and then Lilith is just like a regular word balloon. But you do dialogue box, whatever you want to call it. But it is easy to discern which one's talking, and you don't get lost or have to figure out who's actually talking at the moment. But the dialogue's there's nothing exceptional about it either. All in all, it does its job, though I'd be hard pressed to remember any one particular line from the book. And all the best books usually have that one phrase or that one moment that you remember. And, from great power comes great responsibility. Criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot, etc., etc. You plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth. You tell the whole world, no, you move. And you don't really get anything like that from Graveyard Shift, at least not yet. And you got to remember, this is just volume number 1. So, who knows? Maybe the next one will get something that just really sticks in your head. But as far as it's concerned, the dialogue, again, it's pretty much, standard middle of the road. So I give that a 5 out of 10. So now we come to the presentation. And I have to tell you guys, this book is nice. All right. The binding on it is really tight. And I like how they did the spine. There's this crease that was put there by design, about a quarter of an inch from the spine, and that's to ensure that opening and closing the book won't cause the spine to break down. That's a really good idea. That's spot on, and I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan of old school newspaper stock like a la Eterna. But I gotta say, I think Jon was on the ball with the decision to go full bore, high quality glossy paper stock with this. That really causes the artwork to pop out. The book just feels good, And that cover, man, that cover sings. It's simple, it's uncomplicated, but the colors and the design are eye-catching, and it just looks good. The making of in the back of the book it's a nice look into where the book came from, and the fan art section is a cool little nod to the people who helped make the book possible. And yeah, this is high quality, man. Like, as far as presentation is concerned, knocked it out of the park. I give it an 8 out of 10. And now we're to what basically is the most important category of all, and that is the book fun? And the answer for me was, yeah, it is. The book's idea, what if the Universal monsters were the X-Men? That's a cool concept, and the book has enough interesting elements to keep you engaged throughout. The art obviously is nice. The story is engaging enough to keep you entertained and interested in what's going to happen next. And overall, it's a pretty good comic with a good, it's got a good deal of room to expand upon within the universe that it's creating. Jon obviously put a lot of love into this project, and with a little luck, it's only going to get better. So for fun factor, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. So when we add it all up, Graveyard Shift, Jon Malins' first foray into self-publishing, gets an aggregate score of 6.4 out of 10. It's pretty, and it does have some flaws, but it's fun, and in the end, that's what's most important. And of course, this is all just my opinion. I could be wrong. And that's my review of Graveyard Shift, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button to help the channel. And as always, please leave any comments or suggestions in the comment section below. Click the notification bell to be alerted to any new content. And thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Bye-bye.